A Dangling Man by T.R. Healy. Something growled behind Borchers, startling the hiker, and as he turned to see what it was, his left foot slipped and he started to fall. Frantically, he reached for a pine branch but missed and continued to fall. Then a scream, even more startling, burst from deep in the back of his throat, and as he spilled over the side of the cliff. "Damn it!" he howled, clinging to a knobby root nearly 20 feet below the hiking trail. "God damn it!" He could not believe what had happened, could not believe he was hanging on the side of a cliff. Accidents happened to others, not him, because he was always so cautious in what he did. "Every step you take is planned," he remembered a colleague at the realty office where he was a broker saying to him one afternoon. "Even the ones you don't take." With the heel of his left boot resting inside a tiny fissure, he searched for somewhere to support his other boot but couldn't find any place. The wall was as smooth as a shower tile. So he set his right boot on top of his left one. Frustrated, he looked above the root he was clinging to, as if hoping to see someone with a rope, but all he saw was the sky, as clear and still as ever. Tightening his grip, he tried to pull himself up but lacked the arm strength. He couldn't budge, not so much as an inch, and just hung there with his heart in his throat. "Help!" he screamed furiously. "Please help me!" He listened for a response, but there wasn't any, and screamed some more until he became hoarse. Afraid that he might lose his voice, he stopped and pressed his face against the rock, even tasted it with the tip of his tongue. "Christ almighty, what are you doing?" he scolded himself. "You're acting like someone who's lost his mind. Be patient. Be strong. You're a giant killer, remember?" On his 9th birthday, his grandfather presented him with a slingshot he had made from a branch of hickory wood. It was about the size of a ping-pong paddle, but a little heavier. His parents were not too pleased about the gift, but Pappy assured them he would show him the safe and proper way to shoot it. And he did the next afternoon by having him stand at a right angle to a row of empty soup cans set on a bench in the backyard, with his feet spread apart and his weight evenly balanced on both feet. "Be as comfortable in your stance as you would be holding an ice cream cone," Pappy told him. "Just be yourself." For close to an hour, then, Borchers shot pebbles at the cans. At first he could not hit a single one, but gradually, under the guidance of his grandfather, he started to record some strikes. He drew the shot cup level with his right eye, then stretched the thick rubber band attached to the wooden fork by slowly extending his left arm. Once it was fully extended, he aimed and fired. Over and over he went through the sequence of steps until he felt as if he were indeed holding an ice cream cone. As a youngster, Pappy hunted squirrels and jackrabbits with a slingshot, even claimed he once brought down a pheasant in flight. Convinced it would be good training for his grandson, he took him out to the woods a few times to hunt for squirrels. Though he never managed to kill one, he did learn how to shoot and reload at a very fast pace, which helped him significantly once he started to enter shooting competitions. Nearly always he was the youngest entrant in the field, and seldom did he finish out of the top 10. Twice he finished third, and once second. The event in which he finished second was a crazy tournament to see who could shoot an egg from a slingshot highest in the air. His egg reached a height of 21 feet. "You're a bona fide giant killer," Pappy cracked after the egg competition. It was a nickname that was picked up by others because he prevailed over so many shooters twice his size and age. Pappy even gave him a t-shirt with the words "Giant Killer" printed on it in bright orange letters. He wore that shirt in every subsequent tournament he entered. Even wore it under a sports shirt whenever he had a difficult test to take at school. He wished he had that shirt on now, he thought, adjusting his hold in the tree root. When he had it on, he was full of confidence, believed he could overcome just about any obstacle. Everything seemed so much easier then. All he had to do was pull the rubber band, release the leather pouch, and he almost always got what he wanted. He had words again with his son, as harshly as he ever had, and was afraid if he stayed in the house any longer he might do something he would regret. So he decided to go for a walk in the woods where he once hunted squirrels with his grandfather. He hadn't been there in quite some time, but hoped if he went there he might be able to regain some of the confidence he had when he was shooting a slingshot. The notion seemed ridiculous now, he realized, hanging on the side of a cliff. Moments later, thinking he heard footsteps, he looked up, but all he saw were some vines swaying in the wind, and suddenly, emphatically, he started to scream. Hello there, welcome to No Extra Words, the Flash Fiction podcast. My name is Chris Baker-Dersch. I'm your producer and editor. I don't know what it's like where you are this first full week in September, but here in the Pacific Northwest where I live, It went from the most amazing summer we've maybe ever had to dark and cold and rainy in about 12 hours. So somehow the melancholy stories, even though I selected them for this episode months ago, are really fitting in with the mood around here today. Step carefully. It can mean a lot of things in a lot of different circumstances, and so it does for the character in T.R. Healy's story, A Dangling Man. There's a lot of fathers and sons and grandfathers and grandsons in today's episode, and I think that story captures perfectly the complex dance he's doing with all those relationships in a very literal moment where he's also doing a dance with the side of a mountain. So it's a pretty crazy moment. Coming up next is Christopher Acker's story Sequels. And the Step Carefully in that story also plays on a couple of different levels. They're walking through a cemetery, and I don't know how you walk through cemeteries, but for me, for years, I've only recently started getting over this. I always had this, okay, where do I go that I'm not standing on someone? And so I've figured out that you're always standing on someone and that it's time to get over it. But there's that moment in Sequels. Sequels also does what I think is one of the most challenging things for a writer, which is he's trying to tell the story with both perspectives. He's trying to give you a conversation that is happening between this father and son and really let you see what's going on behind the conversation for both of them, which is really hard to do as a writer, to take both perspectives, and I think he does that dance really well. Without going into a lot of personal detail, all I will tell you is the resemblance between the family being talked about in Sequels and my own family, to me, was eerie, and I hope it will bring some resonance for what goes on in your life as well. So I'm going to bring up Sequels. Not going to talk too much today beyond that, just to say happy fall, episode 12. Glad you're here. Happy listening, and we'll see you next week. Sequels by Christopher Acker. A John Deere backhoe crossing the road up ahead forces Howard to press down on the brakes. The two groundskeepers following behind are in no rush to catch up with the backhoe. The delay the procession causes makes it difficult for him to ignore what is on his mind. I have a small request. His voice punctures the silence that has lasted the entire ride. The suddenness of his voice startles both the father and his son. What's that? Howard's foot eases off the brake pedal. It then bears down on the gas, bringing the car closer to his wife. Come out here with me more often. The bouquet of flowers between James's thighs fills the car with an overpowering aroma. He has to open his window. For what purpose? He asks his father. To mourn. Mom died 7 years ago. Life goes on. The cold air becomes too much for Howard. He turns up the heater and aims both middle vents toward himself. How often do you come here? His son asks. Howard is too damn cold to ask James if he even remembers where the gravesite is. As far as he was concerned, his boy never allowed himself a proper goodbye. I'm just saying, Howard says. It'd be nice if you paid your respects more often. The car rolls into an empty parking space next to a statue of George Washington kneeling in prayer. Beyond the statue, the backhoe tears up a plot of earth. The two groundskeepers wait with their shovels, smoking to pass the time. The snow carpeting the cemetery begins its late winter thaw under the strong March sun, but thick pockets of white persist in certain shady areas, so that when Howard exits his car and heads across the field, the tip of his boot clips a bouquet holder barely visible through the snow. Jesus Christ, he says after regaining his balance. A guy could kill himself out here. Ha ha. The ground sloshes under their feet. James regrets not listening to his father when he told him he should have worn boots. He can already feel the water seep through his sneakers. Anyways, Howard continues, how's my Tommy boy doing? Just fine, James replies. How's his autism coming along? He still has it, if that's what you're asking. No, what I meant is, are there... Howard pauses to blow warm breath into his fists. Any signs of progress? There's no cure, Dad. But some things must be getting better with all the doctors he sees. Past the mausoleum that contains the remains of Bergen County's own Luther Vandross is the patch of snowy grass where Howard's wife is interred. Approaching her grave marker reminds him of his wife's final wish for him to be more accepting of their son. Guess what I caught on TV last night, Howard asks. What? Ghostbusters? The second one? Comedy Central's been showing it a lot lately. Do you actually like the second one? James can count on one hand the number of times his father has talked to him about Ghostbusters. He distinctly got the impression his enthusiasm for the film secretly made his father wish he'd been given an altogether different son, one who was interested in football or fishing. The movie has its moments, James answered, but can we just... Howard cuts him off. The actors looked, I don't know, stilted, like they were just going through the motions. Bill Murray didn't even want to do a sequel. Maybe he was onto something. The tree branches overhanging Doris's grave marker protect the small patch of grass from the brunt of the storm from earlier in the week. It was an unusually long and harsh winter. Months went by where Howard didn't know what to do with himself other than think about his wife. Well, here we are, Howard announces. Here we are, his son repeats. James digs his fingers into the melting snow to find his mother's bouquet holder. Once he clears away enough snow, he shoves the bouquet into the ground. He then straightens his back and asks, "So what do you do out here? I have to explain things to you?" James watches his father run his fingers along the contours of the grave marker's raised lettering. Howard doesn't stop at Doris, but continues to trace each letter in Bradford as well. Howard clears his throat and says, "Your son and I missed you very much, Doris." The deep breath he takes is accompanied by a pat on his son's back. "Thanks for coming. It means a lot to me." "Anytime." Howard isn't quite ready to leave. He still has things he wants to get off his chest. He turns to James and says, "You were supposed to be a sequel. Did your mother ever tell you that?" "Huh?" "Well, not really a sequel. A twin." "Come again?" "At 4 months, your mother miscarried your twin sister. After that, she didn't have the heart to try again. I guess I didn't either." "Why are you telling me this?" "I don't know. Isn't that what a father is supposed to do?" Across the cemetery, the two groundskeepers drape a blanket of astroturf over the dirt mound. Sweat drips down their foreheads. Inside the backhoe, the driver puts a cigarette between his lips. They are halfway to the car when Howard asks James, "Are you and Winona planning on having a second one anytime soon?" James stops in mid-stride so that his sneaker partially covers the marker for Weston G. Hobdy, PFC, U.S. Army, 1926-2002. "No, we're not." His foot eases off the veteran. He would have apologized to Weston G. Hobdy, but deep down, because of the snow and all, James knows it's not his fault.